He's the Vice President of the African Arab Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. He's a member of the Board Association for Advancement of Family Planning from 2013 until date. As I said earlier, he has most recently been made a fellow of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and he's the most recent emeritus professor that has been produced in the Nnamdi Azikiwe University. So, as I said, I'm going to really cut this short. I asked the question when I started. I said, please, ladies and gentlemen, with resounding applause, I present to you Professor Joseph Ifeanyichukwu Brian Davis Adema.
Thank you very much, Professor Adema. It feels good to be here. Let me first of all recognize I'm not going through extensive protocol since a very elaborate one is already existing, but I have to recognize my Vice Chancellor, Professor Ike Chebelu. You know, he had said it is my little twin, more or less, because we have the same names. Joseph Ifeanyi. We also have the same birthday. We were born 8 September, and we have so many other things in common. Let me leave it for now, for another day. Let me also recognize the Pro-Chancellor of our great university. He stood here and made a speech that is inversely proportional to his height. And it reminded me of our late emeritus Professor Wako, who had admonished that speeches should be made in proportion to the height of the size of the speaker. And that was what our Pro-Chancellor did. I thank him for that. I want to recognize members of the Governing Council. I will also provost, my dean, and all colleagues who are here, the parents and the students. And then also to recognize members of principal officers, including my brother here at the Bossa, the registrar, and let us leave it for now and stand on existing protocol. I want to thank the Dean of Medicine, Professor Gladys Ahaneku, MNI, for requesting that I make this medical elders presentation, while congratulating the new graduates of medicine seated there, happy and waiting for this occasion to finish so that the real thing will start. The induction ceremony that is going to take place today is an age-long event that had always existed in the medical profession, because it marks a watershed between graduating students transiting into becoming a medical doctor. You will see yourself today transiting from boys and girls to men and women, transiting from small persons to big men and big women. You are going to transit from irresponsibility to great responsibility. It is a lot of work, and it should reflect a moment for sober reflection. It should be a solemn ceremony, and that is what it is going to be, and that is what we are looking forward to. The parents, the relations, the registrar of the Medical and Dental Council. Now, this induction that is going to take place is known as Sponsio Academics in the University of Glasgow Medical School, In the University of St. Andrews Medical School, abroad, they call it Sponsio Academica. Even in Nigeria, there are some institutions that call it Sponsio Academica. I've had the privilege of speaking as a medical elder at the Sponsio Academica ceremony of the University of Calabar some 15 years ago. And I know also that the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, also calls it Sponsio Academica. But strictly speaking, Sponsio Academica is supposed to be the oath of allegiance that is usually taken at the time of matriculation of the students. But you know, it is now interchanged. It's now going to be taken now that you are going to start the real practice. So it's a great occasion. It's a great occasion for everybody to behold. Now we are here, happy and joyous. In my days as a medical student, at the time you are completing your last viva, the last segment of your exams, still wearing your clinical coat, all the students were headed into a room, a classroom, or a hall. And there, dean will address them, and some other people will address them. Hello? And they will take this oath. They'll be inducted. Mind you, at the time this is happening, the result has not come out. At the time this is happening, the result was being pasted at the notice board. What it meant, therefore, is that most of the people that were sitting there were not really concentrating because they were not sure whether they were going to pass or not. And indeed, some failed. And it becomes a song of Ndi Akwa Nandi Ongu at the end of it. The situation has changed now. Everybody here who is sitting in for this lecture, for this program, already knows that he or she has passed. And that is why they are so glamorously dressed in their best attire, with the females fixing very long nails, very long eyelashes. I couldn't recognize the number of them. But that is what it's supposed to be, because it's a joyous occasion. Now, the talk, the word of wisdom, the admonition from a medical elder is supposed to be one of the major events accompanying this Sponsio Academica, or induction. Now, who is a medical elder? A medical elder is supposed to be a doctor who, at the time he graduated as a doctor, none of the graduating students would have been born. What it means is that at the time I graduated, none of you will have been born. Well, I graduated in 1979. That was 46 years ago. I don't know whether there's anybody that's up to 46 years here. I don't think so. So I am eminently qualified to act as a medical elder. And if the medical elder has the prerogative of deciding what to talk on, he can decide to run along memory lane, expressing his experiences so that he can tap from that, or he can run along a formal course of letting you know what exactly you are expected to do as medical doctors to stay safe. Because whether you like it or not, practicing as a medical doctor can be replete with a lot of... I decided to talk to you on how to navigate through the murky waters of medical practice, through experiencing what the ethics of the profession is. And that is why the title of my presentation is Navigating Through the Ethics of Medical Practice. Now, I'm going to make my presentation under 3 headings. I'm going to be short because we don't have time. The first heading, subheading, what is medical ethics? It goes with many definitions. The second is the guiding principles of ethics. Then the third is ethical responsibility guidelines for the including the Code of Medical Ethics in Nigeria, which the registrar is going to elaborately go through. Now, what is medical ethics? What is ethics? Ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means habit and custom. Medical ethics is the norm or principles that regulate the conduct of the relationship between the medical practitioner and those with whom they come in contact in the day-to-day practice of their profession. So who are you going to come in contact with in the day-to-day practice of your profession? Your patients, patient relations, your colleagues, other paramedics, the hospital authorities, even the health policy makers. Government, how do you regulate the conduct of your relationship with all this? There is a broader term that is called bioethics. It's relatively new and is strictly, in a broader sense, it is a multidisciplinary field of inquiry that addresses ethical issues in relation to healthcare and clinical practice, biomedical research into humans and animals, and health policy and environment. So bioethics is a broader thing, but it comes within the purview of medical ethics, as it were. Now, what are ethical codes? Set of principles or rough guides to practice, usually developed following serious breaches in medical practice. Medical ethical codes are consequent upon breaches, upon injuries to people. And readily, I have 3 examples of such breaches in history, historically. Number 1, there is the Nuremberg Code of 1946. The Nuremberg Code of 1946 is a set of guidelines that were set up following the inhuman treatment of some human beings by Nazi Germany during the Second World War. There are some human beings that they believe are subhumans. They think they are subhumans. You have the Jews, the Gentiles subnormal, and they use them for a lot of experiments, terrible experiments that at the end of inquiry, and that brought up about the Nuremberg Code of 1946. There's also the Helsinki Declaration of 1964, where the World Medical Association put out a set of guidelines that should guide biomedical research. Then there's the Belmont Report of 1979. The Belmont Report is a very, very important document, one of the most important documents in medical ethics. Now, how did the Belmont Report emerge? Between 1932 and 1972, a period of 40 years, there is this Tuskegee, Alabama, USA syphilis trial, where some researchers, using National Health Services funding in a city called Tuskegee in Alabama State, and injected syphilis bacteria into them. 40 good years. And you can know they wanted to elicit all the problems, all the complications that accompany syphilis. This was done in human beings, people like me and you. The only thing is that unfortunately they are black people. Well, by 1972, that study was leaked by a journalist, and a lawyer decided to sue the government of US on behalf of these Americans, unfortunate Americans. Mind you, at the time in question, many of them had died. Only about 40 were surviving. Government decided to settle out of court and stop the research, treated the subject. Remember, at this time we were talking about telephone was already available for treating this, and then paid them compensation of $40,000 each. But importantly was that government set a committee, and this committee worked for 5 years, 1979, and brought out the Belmont Report, which heavily indicted the United States government. Heavily indicted the United States government. This report, they refused to accept it, and up till today, they never accepted it. Although, in 1992, President Clinton apologized to the black Americans for that inhuman research. Now, the Belmont Report is important in that it generated the key cardinal guiding principles of modern bioethics, which is what we are going to talk about now, and which you should listen carefully because it is what should guide you. Now, what are the guiding principles of modern bioethics? There are 4 original guiding principles of modern bioethics. So the first one is respect for persons, what you are expected to do. The second one is what we call beneficence, then maleficence, non-maleficence, then justice. So non-maleficence and justice.